Before the fireworks get on popping, why don't you pop on in and enjoy one more conversation surrounding the world of college football? Because we're so close to being back and we're so close to having real content at hand. He's Dave Shoemate. I'm Cole Thompson. Welcome on into the Overtime Drive right here on SEC Unfiltered. Make sure that while you're here, you like the video, you hit the ring notification, you subscribe to the channel because we love talking college football every single day, and we're doing more of it now with the season closely on the horizon. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the social channels, link in the description. Follow Dave at Dave Shoemate SEC, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. A jam-packed show tonight as we get ready to welcome in another year around the sun for America's birthday. Toughest SEC venues, Texas A&M. What is their ceiling? What is their floor? Hugh Freeze, dude, are you even going to survive the end of the year? And bold predictions, ones that have yet to actually hit the pecking order. Dave and I are going to do all that. As always, we are proudly brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Go visit FANDUEL.com/SECU right now and place down $5. What on? Well, maybe early Heisman odds, maybe the win totals, maybe projections on who's going to win the national championship. And if you win that bet, well, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets simply just for winning that, plus your earnings in advance. What's not to love about winning free money? Using that money to bet more money to win you even more money in the process. You can do all that by visiting FanDuel.com/SECU. Schuster, how the hell are you?
Bear, July 4th, baby. What do you usually do on the 4th, Bear? Any big?
Trying not to get caught lighting fireworks. That's my game plan every
single day. You are a big firework guy?
I got a huge bag. So at work this year, we got to deal with this place called Top Dog Firework in Houston. And they wanted us to promote it as much as possible. So just for the fine folks, you can go see, there is a giant bag right there filled to the brim with fireworks. Is going off sometime tomorrow. We are fully
so Barry, you like you're not a July 3rd fireworks shooter offer guy.
No,
you're not
all
about
if we're gonna
we've had people shooting fireworks for the past week.
Wait, what?
We've had people shooting fireworks for the past week.
I don't know if it's because I live in the burbs now, but no longer I hear them out here. And it's maybe because of it's a new build. But when I was growing up, starting on July 1st all the way until like July 7th.
Well, when the fireworks stands open. No, you're right. I feel like I noticed that more. I don't remember as a kid shooting fireworks that early. Maybe that's wrong. I just don't remember that.
Wait, how early are you talking about?
Like July 1st. All right, not July 1st. Sorry, even into June, like a week before July 4th, like the 28th.
I remember hearing fireworks starting to go off around, what would it be? Maybe like July 2nd at the latest. Like July.
Barry, here's a good question for you, but Barry, are you more of a July 4th or New Year's guy?
Personally, July 4th, because of if it's like say on a Thursday, you're usually off that next Friday. Where New Year's. Yeah. It's one of those things. Now, I will say this. The older I've gotten, I've loved New Year's more because of it usually surrounds the college football playoff. But I also got to make sure that I pace myself to get ready for an indulgence of college football the next day. So, it depends. From a standpoint of actually celebrating and not having to worry about watching games and being focused in on the sport that we love, yeah, 4th of July. But nothing beats a New Year's Eve because usually that means, hey, we got college football the next day. We got some really these are the good games. These are like the number 11 versus number 13 teams in the country.
Give me the 4th of July weather, and I think most 90% of people would agree with me on that, and the food. But like you said, Barry, to me, this is always the dog days of sport or the sports calendar year. I mean, unless you're I don't really start locking into Major League Baseball until after the All-Star break. I've never really just gotten into it at the beginning. I mean, I keep up with the standings and stuff, but I'm not watching locked-in games till around the All-Star. Hell, the All-Star game's in Atlanta this year.
I say, are you going to go? Are we going to go?
Are you going, Bear? Are you coming to rep the Stros?
No, we got the same weekend in Atlanta. Same week as SEC Media Days.
Dude, SEC Media Day keeps following the All-Star game. It was in Arlington last year.
I think it's literally I want to know where it is next year because if it's in Pittsburgh, it's not going to be following it. But the last 2 years, it's followed it in location. And part of me's been let's
Philly.
If we don't, is it Philly next year?
Philly.
Yeah, it's not going to fall.
SEC Media Day. Can you imagine Greg Sankey
Hey, if Joey Stiglione can sign
next year we will be in the city of brotherly love in Philadelphia for the SEC media.
Oklahoma's going this year, so I mean, why not? Like, hey, if it's successful for the Sooners, it can be successful for anybody else.
There, before we move on to our top 5, do you think they ever go back to Texas for media days? Do you think it was just an opening year kind of?
Oh, they'll come back. Now the question. Here's what I'm going to wonder. Will they come to Houston one year because if they want to maybe expand, or will they go to Dallas, or will it just be Dallas at this point? Because Dallas, because they're never going to do Austin. Like, they just won't. I don't see a scenario where they would.
Or San Antonio.
I could see them doing Houston. I could at least once, because if we've had Super Bowls here, we've had conventions here, we've had national championships here. So it's like, I could see it. That one I could. I think that's the other thing is like Atlanta, you can see a national championship being played. Dallas, you can see a national championship being played. Houston falls in that line. And then
Nashville, I'm sure will when that new stadium's done.
Well, I've actually brought this up. Do you think that eventually Nashville is going to get a ploy to potentially host the SEC championship?
Yeah, I can definitely see it.
I can absolutely see Nashville get a ploy.
I think they'll want to try to get Super Bowls at some point.
Oh, they're doing it to build it together.
To get Final Fours, to your point, national title games, Super Bowls.
All right, so we're going to make this a quick show because Dave's got family. I got stuff to do. It's been a long day. Top 5 toughest SEC football venues. The toughest of the tough. You walk into that stadium, you know that you are screwed if you do not have a perfect game plan. Now, there was one caveat that Dave and I came up with when we decided to come up with our list. This is at its peak. It doesn't mean right now. It doesn't mean, hey, we're talking about a 7-5 Tennessee roster. What is the atmosphere like? Or Alabama goes 9-3 one year. We're talking about when they are at its peak. The best environment in history for this school. This is where it ranks in the top 5. So we're going to go from 5 to 1. I can almost guarantee Dave and I have the exact same number 1, so we'll wait for that. But I'll let you start. Who do you have at number 5?
Barry, do you think we have the same number 5? Do you think we have the same 5 teams, just ordered differently?
Maybe. There is one that I am throwing out there. There's one that I have that's a dark horse that comes in at number 5. But I'll let you go first.
Interesting. All right. I'm going to go Willie B. We go Williams-Brice Stadium.
Okay, there we go. So dark horse is done. There we go. So
here's the dark. We've both got them.
I
just want sugar. Throw your compliments at them right now. No, I think at its peak, big game, especially at night, it has a brand. It has Sandstorm. It has the white towels. You've seen them win big games at home. I think at its peak, at night, especially now the way Shane Beamer embraces it, acknowledges the crowd, I do think that at times, me and you have agreed to disagree. I think sometimes it's kind of cheesy, but I will say for this conversation to get that crowd roaring, I mean, you gotta give him a point for that. I mean, I think he's doing it right from that standpoint. But no, I mean, this is my one that you're right, Barry. You may tell somebody and they're like, "What, South Carolina?" But it's like at its peak, I think it's fair to put them at 5th, and I think a lot of it has to do with the branding of Sandstorm and all that.
Williams-Brice Stadium only holds about, I believe I'm not mistaken, 77,000. And I think the most they've ever gotten inside the stadium is 85,000. You could not convince me that it doesn't sound the exact same at its peak as Tuscaloosa, as Knoxville, as Athens, as any one of those places, despite the size proximity. It's because the way the sound travels, it's because the way it reverbs it, and it's the buy-in from the fans. Like South Carolina is one of the most loyal fan bases in all of college football, and they're prideful, which is why we get a lot of crap when we don't pick them to go always 10-2 into the college football playoff, because they care. And I love that about them. But what's so great is that they're fully invested for 4 quarters of action when it's an elite game. When you had that A&M matchup, and it was the night game, and Sandstorm is protruding, and they're wearing the black jerseys, and they're coming out, and it's a funeral for the Aggies. That was peak version of Willie B. And I've already called it the ultimate cathedral of chaos because it's not supposed to be this catechism filled with 115,000 people. It's 77,000 screaming war chicken fans that are excited to welcome in their next victim. And that the vibes are always immaculate there. You know that the way that the intensity continues to travel. And I love the fact that you see the players get so invested in that it's like they're nearing like the fan base, like how close that line is. It just has like this holy eternity, awesome vibe of we know how deadly and dangerous of a program we can be, and largely it's due to the people that are watching us in the stands. Like, that makes Willie B so different than everybody else.
Yeah, I went there twice as an opponent. 14 for the Georgia game, little rain delay, and then 18 A&M. So it went and won there, but definitely the more hostile environment was when we were there at Georgia.
And like the other thing is that they truly they stay through it all. Like they're huddled up inside waiting for the rain to pass. They're not going out to the bars. They're waiting for the game to start. And as long as it's a close call going into the fourth quarter, the advantage is South Carolina. Like, you better have a good lead, because if not, you're absolutely going to find a way to blow it if South Carolina is good that year in football, because the fans make it impossible for you to hear.
Number 4 for me, Bear. I'm going to go Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, also known as the Swamp. Went there once as an opponent, 17 at A&M. We won. It was actually the game they wore maybe the ugliest uniforms in college football history, the reptile-looking gator ones. It was ugly uniforms. One of the worst uniforms. You can go look it up if you want. Google 2017 Florida, like reptile gator uniforms. It was horrendous looking.
Yes, sir.
But,
no, they had the patching.
You know, I went there once as a student, wasn't on the sideline, but for the A&M game for 17. Again, they weren't very good. That was McElwain's last year. So peak was in 2011 when I went. They scored first play of the game. Alabama ended up winning the game. But, yeah, they were undefeated there with Will Muschamp. I mean, we remember, obviously, the Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier days. Tough-ass place to play, but they've had some really bad losses there recently. I mean, Georgia Southern won back in 2013 or 14 there. They've had some bad losses there. It hadn't been the intimidating Ben Hill Griffin Swamp Stadium that we're all familiar with that Spurrier made it into that hostile environment.
4. Yeah, we're probably going to have the exact same. I go the Swamp too. And the reason I go the Swamp is because of it's lost its edge a little bit over the last few years. But it also, when it's at its peak, is still one of the most ravenous environments. Like, there have been games that we have seen on television where it's LSU coming to town or it's Tennessee coming to town, and it's a one possession type matchup. And you go into the fourth quarter, and Tom Petty's won't back down, starts to echo out of the rafters, and immediately the crowd that is cascading in the orange and blue, they're screaming it in their face, and it's like a rally cry for everybody on the field in the Gators uniforms. They're like, we have got to make sure that we follow this agenda. And also the other thing is that when you hear that Gator chomp early on, as soon as you're coming out of the tunnel, when you hear it in the first quarter and it echoes the way that it does, it can throw off teams because of the snap count, because of the reverb. There's just so much about what the Swamp is at its peak that makes it a special place.
Oh, its infrastructure is a total concrete palace.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the way that it also kind of hits you, it, like, the sound stays. The sound just continuously doesn't have a place to go. So it ricochets off and it bounces right back in. And that, I think, adds another environment to it. I also just think that when you remember the dominant Florida teams, how many of their games were so significant being played in front of the hometown crowd out in Gainesville? Like, that to me gave them such an advantage on so many different avenues. Like, yeah, they were a good team on the road, but when they were at home, they felt unstoppable. Like, even with the perfect game plan for, say, an LSU or a Tennessee or an Alabama coming into town that year, it was, hey, we're losing by 3. That's what Florida was producing year in and year out.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think a little bit, recent history. I mean, we all remember the Miami game to open up the season in the Swamp last year. I'm giving a lot more respect to how it used to be. Probably, I mean, you can make a case here recently. I'm overranking Florida here, but recently, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt from the 90s when I was a kid growing up. Like, Florida was the perennial power in the league, and it was a tough-ass place to go win. So, I mean,
that's what we're talking about, is like the peak version of a program at that stadium. And like, you could sell me right now that, Brian Denny and Kyle Field and what they've been able to accomplish in recent years carries a lot of weight. But
I think Texas A&M, I think Kyle Field is so overrated, Bear. I think it is not.
So it's not your top 5.
Dude, no. Hey, no. Hey, dude, that's somebody who used to work there. I mean, how many big games has A&M had opportunities to win at home and lost? I even say, too, they let the visiting team bus pull right into the stadium and right outside the away locker room. It's a very nice away locker room. Like, it's more professional. I'll say this. there's a difference between loud and tough. It's loud. I think anybody who says it's not loud, I mean, you're deaf, probably.
You're deaf.
I don't know how you can deny it. But it's not some rowdy, hostile environment. You can go back, look at the record against top 10 teams who come there since they joined the SEC. It's a losing record. Like,
but they did beat the number 1 team in the country as an unranked opponent in 2021.
That's it.
That's the
in
actual
2018 LSU, but that was a little bit more for the 7 overtime game. And LSU was good, but like that was the year before the year.
Okay, let me ask you, which is a bigger win, do you think, in A&M history? The 7 overtime game or the unranked win over Nick Saban in Alabama?
You're right. I mean, it's a good.
I
was there. I was on that staff the first year with the LSU win. Like, you felt like that was a big springboard win for Jimbo, but he just never really took off and ran with it. I mean, the game they beat Bama in 21, they lost to Mississippi State the week before.
Yeah, it was bad. Zach Calzada had to come out of nowhere and had the game of his life
the next week. That's a good question, Bear. Like, what was a bigger? I mean, all right, here's a question for you, Bear. Before we move on, Jimbo Fisher's biggest win in his tenure,
because
it's gotta be. Yeah, I mean, granted, A&M ended up not being very good. What were they? 8-4, 7-5.
They finished 7-5 that year, if I'm not mistaken.
And I think they were
8-4 that year. They were 8-4 that year.
What bowl game did they go to that year?
They didn't. Remember
that was the COVID year.
Yeah, they had the COVID.
Yeah. What bowl game were they going to again, Bear?
What
bowl was it again?
The Gator Bowl against Wake Forest was who they were supposed to face off.
That was it.
And then the Rutgers got on it. So the best win in Kyle Field history, I think, is the 7 overtime game, because you're never going to see that record be broken because of the way that
they changed the rule because of it.
But I think that the most significant win for Jimbo Fisher is against Nick Saban as the unranked team. Like, that one is a little bit different. Okay, number 3.
Number 3 for me.
I think this is where we differ. I think this is where we might differ.
I'm going to go Jordan-Hare.
Okay.
We'll go to the Plains, go Jordan-Hare at 3. Again, kind of similar to the Swamp. I mean, he's had some up and down seasons. I mean, kind of consistently down seasons for the past 4 seasons, 4 straight losing seasons for Auburn. But I'm old enough to remember when Auburn is really good and they're playing another good team, aka like a top 10 opponent at home, whether it's the 2:30 CBS game or the 2:30 ABC ESPN game in the night game, it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter. They were going to win that game. I mean, I can think of 2004, they played Nick Saban and LSU. Nick Saban's last year at LSU, they won that. That was a top 10 matchup. They ended up going undefeated that year. 06, they gave Tim Tebow and Florida and Chris Leak and them their only loss of the year when they won the national title at home. Obviously, the kick 6, the Georgia game, 17 Iron Bowl, 17 Georgia regular season game. All of them are at home. I just don't remember them losing many big games. The home crowd kind of just takes over. It's kind of an eerie stadium at night because the fields, they're kind of field level on you, and you look and you just see dark skies. Again, like over-exaggerating, but it's just, I don't know, when they're good, it's a tough-ass place to play. But again, similar to Florida, they've had some bad losses. I mean, we're talking about a team, no offense to Vanderbilt, but they took a home. But they came into Jordan-Hare last year and won that game in New Mexico State the year before. But Auburn at its peak, when Auburn's a good football team as well, and all things are even, 2 top 10 teams going at it, man, it being played at Auburn, it's a big advantage.
We're going to have the exact same top 5 in the exact same top 5 order. Jordan-Hare is number 3. I mean, it is. Like, let me just paint the picture, and I truly believe this. There is a shaman man who was buried underneath the pylons of where Jordan-Hare was eventually founded, and his voodoo magic seeps through the soil once a year to guarantee a madhouse game. And it helps that it also seeps into the alcoholic beverages and into the seats and into the oxygen that the fans are breathing in. Because you want to know why? It is the most ravenous atmosphere for that Saturday night. I can promise you, every single year, when you go back and you watch the highlights, or you're going and flipping through YouTube, or you're hearing about your friends and where they went this weekend, they will tell you at least once per season, Jordan-Hare is the most toxic environment, and it is because that voodoo magic has seeped through the soil en route to getting an upset win. Last year, it was the quadruple overtime win against Texas A&M. 2 years before that, it probably should have been the win over Alabama with 4th and 31. It just you had the kick 6, you had the Georgia, the what's it called?
The prayer in Jordan-Hare.
Yeah, the prayer at Jordan-Hare. You had the upset win with Jarrett Stidham as starting quarterback. Bo Nix won an Iron Bowl against Alabama. Like, there's just something about the magic of Jordan-Hare where you'll bring in a top 10 team, and once a season, that voodoo wizardry comes up and says, I grant you the gift of why you came to Auburn and why we talk about Auburn as such a prominent place. And again, when Auburn is at its peak, they also are very challenging to play there. But they haven't been at their peak for a while. Yeah, I can almost guarantee you once a week, once a year, I will turn on my television. I will text around the league, and I'll text with some people, and I'll go, hey, what was the best atmosphere this week in college football? And everyone will say, Jordan-Hare when they got an upset win over number 15 A&M, or Jordan-Hare when they got an upset win over number 21 South Carolina. Like, it happens. That is the standard of Jordan-Hare Stadium in the last 2 decades.
Yeah. No, I mean, when they're good, it's a tough-ass place to play.
Number 2, we're both going to have it, so.
Neyland, Knoxville, I mean, Tennessee. I mean, it's similar to Florida and Auburn. I mean, recently in the last 2 decades, they've had their highs and lows. I mean, it's a team that lost to Georgia State at Neyland, but at its peak, I mean, it's a monstrous stadium. I mean, you're packed in like sardines. It's on top of you if you're on the sideline. Was there for Georgia in 2015, the Nick Chubb game. That was tough loss there. I mean, it's a loud play. I mean, again, everybody kind of remembers the 22 Alabama game is kind of being it. But again, similar to Auburn and Florida, when they're good, but this is a little different because they have more fans than the other 2 teams do. But naturally, it's just a hostile environment. And I think it's good for the league when Neyland's a tough place to go play.
2 is Neyland, and I'm going to disagree with Dave on about when they're good. Neyland's just always a tough place to play, in my opinion, because of the way the fans are. Their fan base had to go through an era after watching Philip Fulmer decide to call it a career, Lane Kiffin, Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, Jeremy Pruitt to get to Josh Heupel at this point. And at the same time, attendance was always at a record-setting high. The fans cared, and it made the volume and the atmosphere that much more intense. They have one of the greatest traditions in all of college football with the giant T. They also are phenomenal because of the way they cheer. I love their rally cries. And the best part is the sound carries up, but because of the way that Neyland is shifted at the very top, it doesn't exit out. So it comes back down. So the echo continues to ring well after the end of the chant, well after the end of the fight song, well after you hear that first down. So you can feel it shaking in your boots. Like we talked about A&M. A&M is loud. Like A&M is 1,000% a loud place. It doesn't mean it's a hostile place. This is a loud and hostile place because the way the fans are, the way that the atmosphere is, the way that you set up college game day. Like I remember years when I was in college and we would go up to Knoxville. Like I had friends from Tennessee, and there'd be some weekends that we would just go ahead and take in a Tennessee game because why not? You're in college, go ahead and drive the 4 hours. We'll make it a day out of it. And they would be playing against Kentucky, or they'd be playing against Georgia. They'd be playing against, Vanderbilt. And it still would carry that much vicinity and that much weight because of they cared. And they have one of the most underrated tailgates in college football. They have one of the most underrated campuses in college football. I love Knoxville. I know I'm supposed to not because as an Alabama graduate, we're supposed to have that rivalry with them. But everything about Neyland Stadium and everything about a game day out in Knoxville is exactly prime peak college football, what you want.
Yeah, Tennessee's a pretty easy place to recruit to.
But number one, and it's, I think, the number one answer in college football, we can just say at the same time, 1, 2, 3, it's Death Valley.
Unless you're the University of Alabama.
Yeah, then it's what is it? Bryant Denny East is what they want to call it? West, what they want to call it.
Yeah. But no, I mean, overall for everybody else, I mean, the school rallies behind. Again, I talked about South Carolina's branding of Sandstorm and Towels. LSU it's a brand. They play at night 9 times out of 10. I mean, so again, it speaks for itself. I mean, Les Miles said it, Death Valley, where opponents' dreams go to die. I mean, that'll forever be entrenched. And he's 100% right outside of one school. That's it. Everybody else, LSU has a tremendous success rate at home against. I mean, I don't know how it's not number one.
It's hard to argue this because of also you have to throw in everything about what is the day of Tiger football. it starts at 4 a.m. It really starts the night before, but then you have the sickos that go home, take a quick nap, and then get ready for the tailgate later on. They are funneling back liquor like no one's business. They are cooking the good food. And I tell people this all the time. People who say that there are folks in Louisiana that are fat, you don't know what you're talking about. They're not fat. They're well fed. They know how to treat their guests. They know how to cook you a nice, warm, home-cooked meal that fills your heart with pure joy, like when you were 7 years old learning how to ride a bike. Like that is a tailgate when you go down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The Couillons are some of the greatest people.
Oh, dude, the Louisianans are the most hospitable people in the world.
And then they go to the game, and it's like they turn off that hospital brain of like, oh, we're the Southern charm. It's we want to watch you die on this field. And then you hear the sweet tone saying, the sun has set in the western sky, and it is Saturday night in Death Valley. How does that not shake you to
Calling Baton Rouge,
knowing what's about to happen? They're also I
think they got one of the coolest like intros where they strike up the band is when it's dun 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 dun. Like it's an initially cool like.
They also are the only team in college football that has the 5-yard markers. Like that's another thing that just makes it such a staple. You know where you are at all times on the field, which makes it better. The way that the bowl is built, especially the lower bowl, it's so closed in that you can almost feel like the players are breathing on your neck. Like I've stood
used to be dorms.
I've stood on the sidelines for multiple games at the end because of when I was covering Texas A&M and when I was covering Alabama. So we would feel the way the fan base, it was like, if we can feel this, the players have got to feel this. So you add that in, you add in the spectacle of the fireworks, you add in the ambiance, you add in the halftime show, you add in the fan base, which is, for my money, the best fan base in terms of consistency year in and year out when it comes to college football, all inside of a building. It's hard to say that there is not a more tough environment in college football to play than Death Valley. Because also it's one of the bigger stadiums in the SEC.
Yeah, no, for sure. I know that's arguable. Again, like we said, except for one team. That's it.
Yeah. And honestly, if you want to argue that Valley is not number one, I need to know what is your number one. And you need to have a slew of evidence to back that up. Like, because I'll listen to 2 through 5. I'm not listening to anybody at number one. Number one is clear-cut Death Valley. Out of curiosity, what was the one team you left off?
That I think other people would have on, probably A&M. That's why I think it's always, even when I worked there, we used to like internally laugh. Like, it's like, yeah, it's always considered like a tough. And again, I think it's an awesome environment. If you've never been to Kyle Field, I highly encourage it. It's just like, it's more of a shock compared to the other SEC teams because all the other SEC teams kind of have, and except for like Florida and LSU. I mean, I know Florida and LSU have Greek life, but it's not as like sectioned off in stadiums like it is at Auburn, Alabama, Ole Miss, places like that. So like A&M brings that unique feel where there's a very military presence. So it's cool, but I just don't think I think the stats speak for themselves. Like it's not a tough place to go play.
I haven't been in DKR since they did the renovations, so maybe it's gotten moved up my list, but I got to go.
I think Texas is very similar to the Alabama fans, very tea-sipper, kind of golf clap fan base.
By the way, can I ask you, because we had in our group chat, multiple people get pissed off that Chris Phillips put Alabama at like number 7, and it was well behind Death Valley. Like, can you agree that Alabama, as good as a stadium atmosphere it is, it only does it once a year? Like it only.
I think they're about to get a chance to change. Because again, like I do remember a few times, like the Florida game in pre-Saban, Florida game 05, Mike Shula, Brody Kroll, the Tyrone Prothro type game right there. Like Urban Meyer's, I think second conference game. Like it was rocking there. But again, Alabama was a top 10 matchup first time in a while at Bryant-Denny. Alabama was really good. It just had Bama fans were starving for some kind of success. And then obviously you get spoiled from 08 through 2023. I think people kind of start sitting on their hands. Like, people, it started being when you were playing teams like Arkansas, Ole Miss, most of the times outside of 14, 15, Mississippi State, whoever else you played in the league, usually outside of LSU and Auburn at that point, or Florida. It was usually, are we going to win? I'm just speaking as an Alabama. If you're an Alabama fan sitting out there, you never questioned if you were going to lose. It's like, how much are we going to win by? It's like, do we look good? It's like, you'd have people bitching about them beating Arkansas 34-14. Like, it was just it's still spoiled, but I think a little bit that's going to come down. I think people are going to be a little more hungry for some wins. It will get loud in Ruckus and Bryant-Denny, certainly. It's just not consistently for like the Arkansas type of games. And again, I know Bama's not playing Arkansas regularly anymore, but that's just my assumption from it. And then people leave games early, the students. But again, I think that's spoiled.
Real fast, Georgia or a Sanford Stadium or Bryant-Denny? Which one do you go with?
Bryant-Denny. I always thought Georgia did themselves a disservice with the bridge there. It leaves it open. Georgia will get loud, though. I mean,
I agree.
The thing that screws Georgia fans, though, is the Florida game's a neutral site all the time. So, like, back when they did the East, the divisions, there are home games some years would be Kentucky, Vandy, and Tennessee, and it'd be like, well, Tennessee isn't very good this year, so that's a terrible home schedule.
That's a terrible home stretch for you to go.
Well, there's just not a lot of games to get jacked for. But, Bear, we both agree this year they have a hell of a home schedule. Bama, Texas, Ole Miss.
Oh, no, there will be opportunities for them to absolutely fill out Sanford Stadium and have a ravenous atmosphere. And I don't mean just the Bama game. Like the Ole Miss game, remember, you lost last year on the Grove. Like, I'm sorry. That's got to carry a little bit of weight for you. But, no, like, review, hit subscribe. Let us know in the comment section who did we leave off, who are we way too high on. I know that most of you are going to say we probably should have put either Sanford or Bryant-Denny in over Willie B. I promise you, go to a game at Willie B. You will understand why we have it ranked at number 5. Let's go into Hugh Freeze drama, everything going on with the current status of Auburn. Auburn, I'm getting a little bit worried about. And I'm not getting worried about the season ahead because I already have my thoughts on the season ahead. But I feel like after watching Alabama, who we talked about on Monday, land 4 5-star recruits. They're the only team in the country with 4 5-star recruits, and they lead the country in 4-star recruits. They're killing it they're killing it on the recruiting trail. They're doing everything possible to make sure that Nick Saban might be gone, but the essence and the aura of Alabama is still here. But now we're hearing that Florida State is taking players away from Auburn. We're hearing that Oregon is taking players away from Auburn. That one's not that shocking. Kentucky took a wide receiver, a 4-star playmaker away from Auburn. And when I look at Hugh Freeze's situation, especially with the drama that goes on with these boosters, if you're not winning on the field, you best be winning in the recruiting trail. And if you're not winning on the recruiting trail, you are definitely facing a lot more heat going into this year.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a strange thing. Essentially, they're kind of taking the road they're interpreting rules differently, this was always the concern is, hey, we hear you, but what if teams are going over their 20.5, or specifically for football at most schools, $15.5 million rev? Like, y'all haven't released. What's the penalties? Like, I talked to one of my best friends in the world, a high up administrator at Georgia. Like, he talks to a bunch of people around the world, and everybody's like, yeah, you just can't break the rules. You just can't play. You can't do it. And I'm always like, well, you know how football stats work, man. I know usually budget, we'd always go over like $1 million, but you know how people, it's not the greatest managing of finances over there. Like, he's like, no, I'm just saying they can't do it. It's not going to happen. I'm like, but what if they do? And I think Auburn's kind of sitting there like, I think from what I've heard, there's some schools, like I think a lot of schools, like talking to people at Auburn and Georgia, think Alabama are overpaying for kids. Again, it's not like an illegal thing. It's just an opinion on it. They can pay them whatever the hell they want, but then they stay within the range. I just think those schools think they're maybe overpaying for these kids a little bit. But I think really from an Auburn perspective, I think they're thinking schools maybe like Alabama and Georgia are not interpreting the rules where the outside third-party NIL collective stuff's not going to count it in their cap, or the school collective. Like if Jimmy Rain for Auburn wants somebody to come do some commercial for Yellowwood, Deloitte, the company who's working from the side of things from the NIL to approve these deals, I think they're kind of thinking that like, well, you can't approve that. You're just paying that kid at that point. And I think Auburn's kind of saying, hey, like, what's the rule interpretation here? And they got money saved up on the back end. They only got, 6 high school commits, or like 80-something in high school. But from talking to them a little bit, they feel like they got most of their rosters in the freshman and sophomore class. And people forget, it's not always about just bringing people in. You got to retain your guys, too. That's where the best teams are. So I don't think there is a right or wrong way right now. We don't know. They've never explained what's the repercussions if you go over. Sounds like Georgia and Alabama think some certain deals aren't going to count against their cap. Auburn thinks they are. We need some interpretation. Sounds like Auburn's whining a little bit. It does. You got your AD and Hugh Freeze up there being like, I mean, we want to play by the rules, but it's like, man, what's the chances of you're the
Exactly.
only one that is interpreted correctly and everyone else hasn't?
It makes me laugh that Hugh Freeze is talking about playing by the rules. Like, I'm sorry, it will always be funny to me that the man who at one point got fired because of breaking the rules is now talking about following the rules. Look, I've said this a million times, and I don't mind saying it again, because if I don't think that people are paying enough attention, Auburn, in my opinion, is the toughest job in college football from the entire proximity of the sport because of your recruiting against Alabama and Georgia. You also were playing Alabama and Georgia every single season. And that was the case because of the way the rivalry worked out. Your cross rival was always Georgia in the East, and you play the Iron Bowl to close out the year. Alabama and Georgia consistently have had more success than you. They've consistently not had coaching turnover the way that you have. They consistently are putting themselves in a prime position to always be top 5 in recruiting. And whatever the rules are, the problem is that if they break it, they break it. So be it. But Auburn fans, mostly Auburn boosters, don't want to hear it. They just want the results, which is why we've seen coaches be thrown out to the wayside very early. It's why we've seen coaches been like, hey, we can do better than Gus Malzahn. And now here we are going into a must-win year with Hugh Freeze 2 coaches later, and the results haven't shown that at all. Like, that is what you get when you go down to the Plains, and that's what makes it such a tough job. And I'm not disagreeing with you. Like, if Hugh Freeze and if athletic directors and boosters are talking about, hey, it's unjust that Alabama's spending X amount of dollars on a player, or that Georgia's spending X amount of dollars on a player, and they're not staying within that proximity, it's a problem. But at the end of the day, if they want to pay that price and they have the money to do so, okay, you didn't offer them enough. And for some of these kids, that's what this is. For others, it's about playing for a winning culture. It's about playing for a brand. It's about playing inside of Bryant-Denny Stadium or Sanford Stadium, or being coached underneath Kirby Smart, or going to learn the offense underneath Kalen DeBoer. Some of them, it's a cash grab. Some of it is.
Yeah, and I don't think necessarily any of it's the them whining about them, complaining about them overpaying. That's Alabama's choice. That's Auburn's choice not to. I think they're more like, how are you getting to your number when we're at our number and we're competing for the same pool of kids? Like, the math isn't adding up how y'all can afford all these guys. And people have sources, intels. They can go figure out kind of what's going on. It's like, oh, they're not counting that deal into their cap. It's like, well, we're counting those similar kind of deals that we're dealing with on our side in the cap. Well, someone should manage this. Why is that not happening? So I think it's like, there needs to be interpretation of the rule. But I will say this, Auburn's the only one that's came out and said this. So it's like, well, it sounds like your interpretation of the rule is wrong right now, or you're just you're just playing by your own rules in a very negative way. It's going to hurt you from a negative perspective. I mean, you can say they can overpay them all you want. That's just an opinion of other teams out there, which
I'll tell you how it sounds to me. We lost 5 4-stars, and we're pissed off that we didn't have the money to go pay them because they got paid by more, and now you took them away from us. Like, that's how it sounds to me a little bit. It's like,
I think 2 things are true in this situation. Yes, I'm sure Georgia and them, which they always have, it played in the gray area. They're going to go toe the line and see what they can do to count against it in their cap. So it is what it is. To your point, though, too, Auburn's a little probably butthurt. They haven't gotten some of these kids, and it's been a bad month of June for them. So, but again, I've heard they're trying to save a lot of money. But Auburn's similar to how the Alabama offensive line thing's been the last few years. Man, Alabama's offensive line, watch out for them this year. They're going to be really good. It's like every year you hear in the offseason, Auburn's really saving for next year. It's like, well, okay, like at some point. But I do think they do have a lot of money invested in the underclassmen in their current roster, which would make sense.
I remember hearing this time last year about Auburn going into 2024, feeling uncomfortable that they were going to have to play so many of the young guys, that they didn't want to burn their red shirt. They didn't want them to see significant reps. And that factored into why they finished 5-7. And I'm okay with that. And if I'm a booster at Auburn and I hear that, because I understand that it was a lot of turnover and the way that Harsin left the program when we fired him, I understand all of that being a factor. Here's the problem. They're a year older. They have the experience now. They've gone through 2 spring practices with you for most of them, and they'll go through 2 fall camps with you. At some point, we have got to start seeing the results. If we're so fixated on Hugh Freeze as a recruiter being great at landing the right talent, and then it comes to the next stage, developing the talent, you have to complete the cycle before we can go ahead and start praising your name. Hugh Freeze has done a good job of landing talent. But if the talent isn't producing, like when Jimbo Fisher landed the #1 recruiting class in college football, and half of them were gone a season later, and then the other half, they weren't being properly developed because of that coaching staff, then it goes back to coaching at that point. And so this is where I'm at with Hugh Freeze. I understand that last year was a fluke. You had a quarterback problem with the turnovers. You didn't really have the most elite, elite weaponry. You had some guys that you really trusted that you knew were going to be breakouts this year. But now they got to hit. Now you got to start seeing the results. You got to get great play from your secondary that are young players. You got to get great play from your wide receivers that have had over 500 reps to be able to work in live games. You have to be able to set the tone. Because if not, I understand. You have a lot of money invested in this class, and you're saying, oh, we got more money invested later on. Well, all you're doing is you're setting up the next coach to come on in and pick and choose who he wants to keep on the roster and what they're going to be willing to offer with the new coach in the NIL collective to keep them on the Plains for a second season.
Yeah. No, I mean, this season, like you said, is going to define the Hugh Freeze tenure for sure.
I'm not worried, though, about recruiting. Like, there's some people that are thinking the sky is falling for recruiting. It's not. Like, it's not. It'll be fine. The 2026 class is not going to be 73rd in the country. It's not going to be 14th in the SEC. It's going to be closer to like 6 or 7. It'll be maybe even top 5 in the SEC, and it'll be top 12 overall.
No, I mean, like, you go look at like Arkansas is in the mid-pack of the SEC, but go look how many commits they have. Yeah, I mean, it'll even up. And again, I do think Auburn will go. It may not be some top 10 class. It may not, because they may have to go invest more money in some holes that they're going to have to go through the portal. Because, again, most of that class, they want to retain most of those freshmen and sophomores, which I agree with. That's a good strategy there. It's like Ron Wolf of the Packers.
And I'm not sitting here and saying that, Auburn is going to be fine and they're not going to fire, Hugh Freeze or any of that. There should be no concern. What I'm saying, though, is that they're at 73 on July 3rd, 2025. They will not finish 73 in the 24/7 sports rankings by the time that your early signing period comes to a close. It won't be that way. You know that. I know that. I think most people on the Plains know that. The only question I do have is, will it be with Hugh Freeze as the head coach? That's where the question, I think, comes in.
Yeah.
All right, bowl prediction time. We're going to each release 3 bold predictions. And by the way, if you're watching this channel, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, subscribe to the channel, because we talk college football every single day. And we are having multiple live streams throughout the week, whether it be with Chris Phillips and Blake Ruffino, whether it be with me and Dave, whether it be with Chris and Dave, whether it be with Dave, Chris and me. We have live streams throughout the week. So the best way to keep up to date with everything that we're doing with college football, subscribe right here to the channel. Nonstop action at SEC Unfiltered. Bold predictions, Dave. Let's go ahead and rank our top 3 boldest predictions for the SEC in 2025. And I'm not saying like, oh, Ty Simpson wins the Heisman Trophy, or oh, Ryan Williams hits 1,000 yards. I want bold, out there type of predictions. So you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Yeah, mine's in no specific order. I think they're all pretty bold. I'm going to lead off with Jackson Arnold is on a all-SEC team to finish the season. He's going to be either first, second, or third. I mean, I lean kind of second or third. I'd be really shocked if even for my own bold prediction. But I do think, again, I know a lot of people in the recruiting service world, again, I was out of it when he was going through it, that really loved this kid's game. I think last year was just an outlier from that perspective. Again, we know about the injuries at the wide receiver spot and the offensive line position, just everything melted. I mean, Seth Luttrell was a fullback at Oklahoma in his first time ever coaching quarterbacks. I mean, it was just set up for disaster. Has good weapons, has a top 3 receiver unit in the league. We know they go 5 or 6 deep. I think it's the best offensive line Auburn's had since 2019. I think that'll benefit him. The run game should be fine enough. I think they just have some guys in the backfield like Damari Austin, but I think they got enough guys that can win. He's surrounded by more, I think, maybe tweaking the RPOs down a little bit, because I don't think that's overall one of his best strengths. You got to just limit him, give him simple reads. And I think he has the athletic ability and the arm strength and just the overall arm talent to go win games in a very simplistic offense here. And again, he's athletic too, now plays with his legs. So I think Jackson Arnold's going to have – I'm not fully believing this, but if we're going bold, Bear, I think it's a pretty bold statement for when you factor in his numbers and stuff from last year, but I think it's a little bit of an outlier.
All right, let's stick with the Auburn theme then for me. Hugh Freeze is fired after the Vanderbilt game, losing to Diego Pavia for the 4th straight time. And it's not because of that. That is the nail in the coffin. So I'm going to lay out this. I think that Auburn has an opportunity.
So you think Hugh Freeze is the first coach in the SEC fired next year?
And maybe. I think that Pittman's definitely in the running. I think that Stoops maybe would step down. But if we're talking about fired, it would be Pittman, and it would be Napier, and it'd be Freeze in some order.
So, Barry, you're looking at Auburn, I'm assuming, if you're saying they're losing at Vandy. He's getting fired after Vandy. Lost to Baylor, lost to Oklahoma, lost to A&M, lost to Georgia, lost to Missouri. I mean, do you have them winning a conference game before?
Here, let me go through it real fast. So I think that Auburn has an opportunity to be a very special team, especially offensively. I agree that Jackson Arnold is going to be better suited for Hugh Freeze's offense, and there is a top 3 unit. But I don't think enough people are paying attention to what McLean Stadium is on a Friday night. The battle on the Brazos. That is going to be a must-see game. And if you're asking me to trust quarterback play right now, I lean Sawyer Robertson over Jackson.
You think that would be a loss if he got fired, and then you think Oklahoma is going to be a loss?
I think they lose to Oklahoma. I just think
at A&M.
I think they lose at A&M. Right.
All right, Georgia at home. I would assume you have as a loss.
They start off the season 2-4. I think that they're going to start off the year 2-4 before they get their first conference.
And those 2 wins, Ball State and South.
And then they go the next 3 they win. I think as of right now, I'd lean them over Missouri at home. I'd lean them over Arkansas, and I'd lean them versus Kentucky.
See, I think for him to get fired after Vandy, which I don't think is totally unrealistic, but I don't know if they fire him after winning 3 straight. You know what I mean? Now, if he lost to one of these, like at Arkansas or Kentucky, you're right, and they go lose at Vanderbilt, and you're staring at 5 and 7 all over again. No, I mean, I could see that. They've shown they'll go an interim head coach just 2 years ago into the Iron Bowl.
But here's my thing. There is a standard that needs to be set in Auburn. And losing to Vanderbilt, regardless of who is the starting quarterback, should always be a non-negotiable, especially if you start off the year 2-4 the way that I have them. Diego Pavia has been a problem and a thorn in Hugh Freeze's side well before he ever got to Nashville, Tennessee. He was a problem for him while he was coaching at Liberty, and he was at New Mexico State. Freeze gets the job down at Auburn. He comes with the Aggies to Jordan-Hare Stadium, and he beats them in year 1. Then he transfers over to Vanderbilt, and he goes in, and he has a worse game than he had against Alabama, yet still beat him a 3rd time. You can't lose 4 times to the same quarterback and think that there is going to be progress, especially when you hear the rumors and the speculation that there were teams interested in the SEC to land Diego Pavia. And to be completely honest, Dave, if you had Diego Pavia on your roster the last 2 years, you're at least 7-5, in my opinion. So it's hard for me to bank in on saying if you were to go 4-2 to start the year with losses to Baylor, losses to Oklahoma, losses to Texas A&M, losses to Georgia, even if you were to get that 3-game win streak and be right back at 500, a loss in Nashville, a loss to Diego Pavia a 4th time, it just to me says we need to make a change of direction. And you do it.
They would be at that point, what, 5-5?
They'd be 5-5 with needing to get a win, needing to get 2 wins. No, they'd be 5-5.
Yeah. No, not lost. I think that's the first guy gone.
And they'd at best would be 6-6 because they end the year with a game against
5 if they won out. Yeah, but still 7-5. Yeah, I mean you're not going to fire him after beating Alabama, but no.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, Bear. My next one. I'm going to go one of these 3 teams will go 7-5. The Tennessee Volunteers, the Missouri Tigers, or the Ole Miss Rebels. Like one of them go 7-5 this year, if not 2.
Schedule works that way. It does. If
you told me Missouri had a tough schedule, I think they scream 7-5, but they may just stick at 8. I think maybe just off schedule alone. Tennessee, I think me and you both agree on their schedule. It's the second easiest schedule after Missouri. I mean, Tennessee would have to melt down to lose 5 games. I mean, that would be. I mean, you're probably either losing to Arkansas or Syracuse at that point. Vandy, maybe. I mean, you're losing those kind of games. And then I said Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss just has so many unknowns to me a little bit, especially in the back end. Scares the hell out of me. Again, but Ole Miss is that team who could go win 9 games this year. That wouldn't shock me. So, but I do think if you ranked them in order, Bear, who I think goes 7-5 in that, I'd probably go.
Ole Miss would be bottom third. Would be the third for me.
Yeah, see, they probably be second. I'm gonna go Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and most likely to go 7-5 out of those three.
With Tennessee being the least likely, Missouri being the most.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I think that just when I trust Lane Kiffin in a year with no expectations to get at least 9 wins. Like that, that's where I go to. So my number 2 is very similar to your number 3. Bold prediction: Austin Simmons is an all SEC quarterback. Enough people are not talking about Austin Simmons going into this year. And shame on me, shame on Chris, shame on Dave for not bringing them up more. But last season, remember that Georgia was leading in that game when Jackson Dart came out. Georgia was up. And here comes Austin Simmons, first real major test, cool, calm, collective, in his element. And I don't know if it's just the baseball gene in him. I don't know if it's just he has that it factor, but he was unafraid against that front seven. More importantly, he built that chemistry. He was not afraid to take those shots. Connected 21 yards downfield with Caden Lee. And I think that Caden Lee is in for a special year. I really like the addition of Luke Haas. I think that Harrison Wallace is going to have a good year. Dejon Stribling coming on in from Oklahoma State. He may be one of the more slept-on players that we got to talk about more. And you throw in the mobility factor. Plus, you also throw in Simmons was there throughout all of spring this season. So he has gotten mental, physical reps at QB1. If he is as advertised, if he is even a smidge what we saw from Jackson Dart and the way that Lane Kiffin gets quality play with quarterbacks, what are we talking about? 4,000 passing yards potentially, maybe 4,400 total yards of scrimmage, and then 30 touchdowns. If you do that, even if you're not QB1 in all SEC play, you're certainly in the running for QB2. And I think he can have that type of season. I like the personnel. I like that he's been in Lane Kiffin's system for multiple years. Similar to how I feel about Arch Manning. It's a blind leap of faith believing that Austin Simmons can be this dude. But I do believe in just that one small sample size against a Kirby Smart defense, he showed enough to say, hey, this kid's got something. And I think that we're going to see more of it throughout the season.
And Bear, my final one, I'm going to go Ryan Puglisi starts at least 2 conference games for Georgia this year.
So you're saying
that could be for injury because I think they're going to run Gunnar Stockton a little bit. He's got to get down. I mean, I think he takes shots. Again, I think it's kind of his strength is his biggest weakness, his edge, his toughness, trying to go to deliver a big hit, kind of set the momentum changing. I mean, we remember that in the game, in the SEC championship game. They kind of set the tone. Georgia kind of rallied around him. But you can only take so many of those as the guy. So I think either by his own fault, they go to Puglisi, our fellow Northeastern Yankee. They go to Puglisi either by injury or I think he takes over for the job.
Taking over for the job, I could see. Okay, number 1. I contemplated doing this, but I'm okay. All 4 representatives for the Heisman Trophy come from the SEC. That's my
all 4 candidates.
All 4 candidates come from the SEC.
There.
If I were to be a betting man right now,
let me guess for you.
I will go a step further.
I'm going to guess.
I will tell you right now, 1 is not a quarterback.
Oh, you weren't going to? I thought I'd bet a lot of money you were going Nuss was guaranteed one of them.
No, 1 is not a quarterback. 3 are quarterbacks.
All right, so Nuss is in it.
Nuss is 1.
Is Lagway?
Nope.
Sellers?
Yep.
Arch?
Yep.
All right, so there's your 3 quarterbacks. For your Heisman, when are you going to go Aaron Anderson?
Nope.
Are you going to go
Oh, did I say Arch? My apologies. Not Arch. John Mateer. That was the one.
You said John Mateer. All right, so there's your 3 quarterbacks. I'm trying to think who not Jaden Ott.
Nope. But you are at the right position.
Oh, I am. Trey Wisner.
Nope.
Jaden Ball.
Jaden Ball. I'm going Jaden Ball. I think Jaden Ball.
Yeah, I guess that's fine. Like 4 for 8.
I will make it even a bolder claim. I think Jaden Ball leads the SEC in rushing yards per play, and rushing touchdowns this year. And that's what sends him to New York City.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I could. Yeah. I could see that.
It doesn't matter if they were to go like 9-3. If you were to lead the conference in rushing yards, yards per play, and rushing touchdowns, and let's say you're at 1,400 rushing yards, let's say you're averaging 7.2 yards per play, and you finish with 28 rushing touchdowns, your ass is going to the Big Apple. Like it's happening. That's a done deal. You can lock that in place. I think John Mateer with Ben Arbuckle this year, he's going to throw for a lot. He's also going to run for a lot. I think when you throw in Garrett Nussmeier, it's ice in his veins, and I'm a big believer in year 2 development with him, just like we saw with Jaden Daniels, just like we saw with Joe Burrow. I get it. Different OC. Definitely a weaker snap, but I still believe it. And Lenore Sellers, I think he's going to get 2 or 3 signature wins, and he is going to be the entire offense for South Carolina. So when you do that, you also earn your place. But 4 Heisman Trophy finalists all come from the SEC next year.
You heard it, folks, from the Bear. He's calling it. SEC takeover on Times Square come the second weekend of December.
I will say I almost went with another running back. Can you guess who it is?
Guess who the other running back is for Bear? Hold on, Bear. Let me think. Let me lock in.
You want me to give you a hint?
Is it Le'Veon Moss?
Because we're just about ready to start talking about him. Le'Veon Moss was the other guy that I can actually see find his way to New York City. But the lines are already out. So that means that you should go on over to FanDuel.com and prove me right or prove me wrong by betting on who you believe is the favorite to hoist up college football's highest honor in 2025. Whether it be Arch Manning, John Mateer, you can throw in a Le'Veon Moss. Dallas Wilson, the freshman from Florida, may end up making history this season for all we know. But whoever you bet, make sure you go on over to FanDuel.com. And while you're there, go to FanDuel.com/SECU. Sign up, lay down $5. Maybe throw down $5 on it. Who knows? Taylon Green of all people. And the man out in Fayetteville leads you to not only a massive upset, but also $250 in your pocket. So go to FanDuel.com, sign on up right now. FanDuel.com/SECU for your number one thing. And just remember, you can get so much more with the online plays, the Parlay Hub, same-game parlays, or any one of the SGPPs made for you at the Parlay Hub by simply going on over to FanDuel.com/SECU. Disclaimer: must be 21 and present in select states or 18 plus in DC. First online real wager money only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issued with non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under the agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelpline.ma.org. Make sure that you also visit MD Gambling Helpline ORG or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts and in Maryland, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. All right, Dave, let's knock this out. Texas A&M, what are you going to be in 2025? What is the future for Mike Elko in year 2? Well, you start off with UTSA, then you get to go play against Utah State before traveling up to South Bend, Indiana to face off against the Fighting Irish. You come on home, you take on the Auburn Tigers, then you get to go play against Mississippi State in your own backyard, which is a good thing, and then you welcome in yet another home game against the Florida Gators. Then you hit the road for 3 weeks at Arkansas, at LSU, which is not going to be played this year near the end of the season. It's going to be played in the middle of the season. Then you go play at Missouri. You come on home, you get to play South Carolina. Then you play against, I believe that's Mercer, if I'm not mistaken, Dave?
Samford.
Samford, that's right. And then you close out the year on the road in Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns. So, Dave, most winnable conference game.
I mean, I feel like I'm always picking on Mississippi State or Kentucky or something, but it's got to be Mississippi State. I mean, I think they're going to be a little more improved this year, but a game being at home, this would be a tough second conference home loss for Mike Elko. That's a game they got to get. It's early. Could be having some real momentum, but they could kind of be reeling depending on how those Notre Dame and Auburn games go.
Yeah, okay, because here's the thing. If this was Arkansas at home, I'd probably pick them.
I was about to ask you that, Bears. If it was Arkansas at home, because people I think may forget that game's in Fayetteville this year.
And because of it's not a neutral site game, and because it's not in Kyle Field, I can't say that entirely.
It's Mississippi State.
So I'll just tell you right now, for those of you that are paying attention or watching the show, I'm having my 3 bold predictions come out tomorrow. That is what's happening. I have Arkansas beating Texas A&M. Now, to be fair, I also have them losing to Memphis. So it's a trade-off this season. Like, that's what I have because it just feels like vintage Arkansas. So I'm just letting you know that right now. That's one of my bold predictions. Doesn't mean it's going to come true. Just a bold prediction.
Yeah.
It's because of it's in Fayetteville. It's simply because it's in Fayetteville. So it's Mississippi State because it's at home. Like that's the reason.
Yeah. This is a 2 + 2 = 4.
Most exciting game, in your opinion?
Most exciting game to me for the Ags in Mike Elko year 2. Man, I want to say the South Carolina home game, but I just don't know really what both these teams are going to be like at that point. I mean, I have an idea, but I think it's just so far just excitement. I'm going to go the Florida home game. You get the Texas gunslinger DJ Lagway coming back home from Willis, Texas. I think that would be a fun one. He's kind of the rumored. I mean, A&M was the rumored suitor if Billy were to get fired, where Lagway may transfer to. So I think it's an exciting game. Florida's not there often. I mean, I think Florida was there last, in 2020, COVID year? A&M won that game. So they don't come there often. So I think it'll be a fun game for A&M fans to get to experience. And again, a Lone Star State native coming back, manning the quarterback spot for Florida and DJ Lagway. So I'm going to go that one.
If we weren't going, and I still may talk about this if one of us were to be able to stay sober, if we weren't going to Red River Shootout, that would be the game I'd tell us to go to, especially if it's a night game.
Bear, could you make both? I mean,
if we could do it, I may look into it. If that's like
isn't Texas, Oklahoma not guaranteed to be in the morning anymore?
That's what I'm wondering. We got to see what time what the timing is. Because if the timing works out, if there was a way to do it, we could do it. It'd be one of the greatest weekends in college football history for SEC.
It really would.
Florida would be the answer. I'll change it up just to make it a little bit different. Notre Dame is going to be really intriguing to me because of this could be the best rushing attack versus the best rushing attack.
Yeah.
And the question is, who is RB1 and who is RB2?
Two of the better offensive lines.
Like A&M, enough people are not paying attention to the names behind Lavian Moss. Ruben Owens is fully healthy. You get Amari Daniels. You still have E.J. Smith on the roster. There is a way for them to truly, with Marcel Reed, especially with Colin Klein as your offense coordinator, run a crap ton of options, a crap ton of pitches to the outside, and just be a physical, old-school football team. And then on the flip side, Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love may be the second-best duo running backs in college football behind Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. So you throw that in the environment of Notre Dame Stadium with touchdown Jesus looking behind you. It's probably going to be a night game. Last season, A&M got to open up the year with Notre Dame. First game for Mike Elko, came from Notre Dame, made his impact at Notre Dame before he went to Texas A&M. Now he gets to go back to South Bend, Indiana. You have a quarterback that's being broken in CJ Carr. You have a ton of new defensive players, but you have one of the best cornerbacks in college football in Leonard Moore going one-on-one with Casey Concepcion. There's a lot to like about this game because of if A&M were to somehow get the revenge factor, imagine the momentum they'll carry that into their next 3 home games against Auburn, Mississippi State, and Florida.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you there.
3 must-win games, in your opinion.
I think it's Auburn. I'm not going to say at Notre Dame. I think they got to get one of those. Now, again, if they were to beat Notre Dame, lose to Auburn, that could make a little more sense. Obviously, you'd rather have the Auburn one because it's a conference game in Continental standings. But I'm going to go Auburn. I'm going to go, man. I'm going to go Auburn, Missouri, and South Carolina. I think they're going to have to go do some damage in the month of November. Because, again, if they could just have losses to Notre Dame and at LSU going into the last month, remember the month of November, that would be – they're going to have to do some damage and potentially maybe have a chance to make the playoffs again, finishing the year in Austin. So I think that would be, if I'm an A&M fan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. After my first 8, if I'm 6-2, after the LSU game, going into a bye week, and we get Missouri, South Carolina, Samford, and then at Texas, and you're telling me we got to win out, depending – I mean, I'm not as high on Missouri some of this year. You get South Carolina at home, Samford, you should win. I mean, I think Mike Elko would take that in year 2. You just tell him he's got to go win one game in Austin, as tough as that will be. I think he'd probably take that. I think a big month of November starts that. So I'll go Missouri, South Carolina, along with Auburn.
I go Missouri as well. I think you need to win because we're coming off of a bye week. At this point, we'll know what Missouri is. What if, again, what if Missouri ends up being the chaos team and Bo Pabula is awesome and Kevin Coleman is the new Luther Burden and you have great defensive play underneath Corey Batoon. And now this is the game that's like, hey, you win this. Now you are set up for the South Carolina game to be another one of these playoff eliminator matchups. And you win that, you're going into Austin almost guaranteed. If you keep this thing close and you're 9-3, you got a shot. But it starts off with coming off a bye against Missouri. So I agree with you on that. I think that Florida is a must-win game, mostly because of you feel really good about where your roster is. And you got to feel really good about your run game, and you got to feel really good about your offensive line. And one of the downfalls for Florida last year was their inconsistency to pressure quarterbacks. And they lost some names. They do have some potential first-round talent. They have some of the best interior defensive linemen in college football. But if your offensive line is as advertised, you should be able to control the tempo in front of the home crowd. Like, you should absolutely be able to do that. And even if it's Marcel Reed versus DJ Lagway, and I would say Lagway is a better quarterback than Marcel Reed, I have fewer questions when it comes to A&M as a whole, as a program, but the ceiling may be higher for Florida in this game. So if you knock them off their pedestal a little bit, you got to feel pretty good about that standpoint. And then I'm also going to go Auburn. I just think that you should beat Auburn. You lost
in conference game at home.
You lost in quadruple overtime last year to a team that had so many issues. You couldn't get one final stop in the fourth quarter. And then when you got to overtime, you were at the goal line multiple times. And this was the moment that Hugh Freeze decided to trust his run game. This was the moment that he said, oh, now we're going to go turn to Jarquez Hunter. And now we're going to go turn to Cam Coleman. So it's like, you got to get revenge for that. You shouldn't have lost that game. Auburn should have been 4-8 last year. You should have won. You should have finished the year off 9-3. So those are my three.
Ceiling, floor.
Ceiling for me, I'm going to go bold because everyone thinks I hate Texas A&M. Ceiling for this team is 10-2.
Yeah, I agree.
Ceiling for this team is absolutely 10-2 because if you know what you are on offense. Like, let me make this abundantly clear. Everyone should understand what Texas A&M's identity is going to be this year. Ground and pound, punch it down your throat, mentality football offensively. And your job is to stop that. They're not hiding it. They're not sugarcoating it. And I'm okay with that because I think it can really work. If you can do that and do that consistently with what you have at the running back position, with the bowling ball in number 8 with Lavian Moss, with a great secondary dude in Ruben Owens, and you get one dude defensively to pair alongside with Cassius Howell and Torian York. One dude. I don't care who it is. If it's a pass rusher, if it's defensive tackle, Albert Regis, it could be Will Lee at the outside. Just one dude defensively. Maybe it's Scooby Williams having an all-SEC year. Like, maybe it's that.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, you can win. Auburn, you can win. Mississippi State, you should win. Florida, you can win. Arkansas, you should win. At LSU is the only game to where I feel like that's just going to be revenge too much.
On a given day, you could win that. But to your point, you won't be favored most likely. Missouri,
you can win. South Carolina, you can win. Stanford, you can win. And probably Texas is the other one, depending on how Texas looks at the end of the year. Like the two games, if you were to ask me right now, which are the two most unwinnable games? It's at LSU and it's at Texas.
Yeah.
And I think even for at LSU, you could win that game, but then watch you do something dumb and drop it to Arkansas. But that's the ceiling, is 10-2.
I talked to someone over there that works inside the building and just asked straight up, it's like, if I just could tell you how Marcel Reed's season was this year, how would that be? If I just told you he played really well this year, they were like, oh, we think we could win the SEC for sure. It's like, well, if he plays bad, we could go 6-6. Like, I think it's been that kind of spring, maybe bleeds into the summer a little bit, just inconsistencies. I mean, how do you feel about this year? First question, the response immediately is always just depends on the quarterback. Like every other place, we feel like we're good enough to compete with anybody. It's just it can be good some days, and it can be some bad. Talk to some NFL scouts that were at practice. I guess they were kind of at the same practice one day. And it was in the spring, and it wasn't awesome. So I think that's everybody's concern. Just what are you going to get with Marcel Reed on a week-to-week basis?
So then what's the floor?
I'll go 7-5. I wouldn't hate 6-6 too. Anything below that, Jesus, I'm sorry, that would be disastrous. But I'll go 7-5.
Can I be bold and just say that they have the lowest floor and also maybe the lowest ceiling for me because I think their floor is 8-4. Like, I just do for some reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's
how would you see them getting to 7-5? I mean, obviously lose to probably Notre Dame, Auburn.
okay. So if they were 7-5, it would be Notre Dame, Auburn, Florida, LSU, and then a combination of Texas or South Carolina.
So it's like you said, think about it. That's 5 losses right there. It's like, geez, they lose all those games, and yeah. See, they have some interesting teams on their schedule too that like it could really amplify their schedule from a strength schedule or strength side of things, or it could be like say Missouri and South Carolina are just fluttering around anywhere from 6 to 8 wins, and it's like, okay, like those weren't as
Florida loses momentum after this
game. Correct. Auburn isn't very good.
Mississippi State is not like Mississippi State is in the same vicinity as like say a Florida by record standard. Like there's a lot of things like, but there's just something about. There's 2 things that I trust. I'm going to trust the Mike Elko defense. I'm going to trust that it's going to improve this year because if he spent an entire offseason making sure he had the right pieces. I'm going to trust that Texas A&M can run the crap out of football. Those are 2 things that I can just blindly go into this year and go, yep, that is Texas A&M. Everything else I can't. But at times last year, I couldn't trust 2 other elements of the squad. And guess what? They went 8-4. So it's the same thing. I can trust 2 elements of this team knowing that, hey, they're going to be great on the ground. They're going to be great defensively because Mike Elko will not settle for mediocrity. And so 8-4. They're going to win a game that they shouldn't, and they're going to lose a game that they shouldn't. They'll lose to Arkansas, and they'll win on the road against LSU. Yeah. Like that will be Texas A&M in a box.
Say what you want about Mike Elko too. Is I think it's interesting to have these conversations because it's real life inside of these buildings. Is what side of the football does your head coach lean on? Like I heard Greg McElroy talking about it, just like playing. He played for Rex Ryan in the NFL. I mean, didn't start a lot of games. And then Nick Saban played primarily for defensive coaches. They're hammering most of these quarterbacks most of the time. Do not turn the ball over. Do not turn the ball over. So Mike Elko's a smart enough overall dude. Like you mentioned, defenses are always good. He's going to tell Colin Klein, hey, put him in the best possible position, whether that's simplifying just one side of the field. He can't turn the football over and get us beat. So this isn't like it's Lincoln Riley or a Mike Leach or somebody that is like, hey, they're an offensive-minded head coach. They're going to kind of encourage their quarterback to take some risk at times. This is a defensive-minded head coach. He's going to be all about limiting turnovers. He knows that turnovers would get them beat. So I could see that being something Marcel Reed's pretty good about this year from a perspective. I got to protect the football.
He's going to tell them, hey, wide receivers are not catching balls. We're running the crap out of the football. Oh, you don't like that? I don't care. You're not. They're making my quarterback have to throw into harm's way and make us lose a game. Like that will be Mike Elko. And the way that he handles his players, it's great. Like I may not be high on Texas A&M in terms of what their overall outlook is this season. And the jokes of Texas 8-4 write themselves. But they do have the right head coach in Mike Elko. It just may take another season for them to figure it out. And it may take literally a full year of Marcel Reed being the starting quarterback and then coming back next year with Colin Klein, the system, to get them over that hump to 10-2.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
In my thing, and even turnovers at times with him, it's just kind of like the limited explosive plays at times. Like what you saw South Carolina had a whole week to know he was going to start after he came in the second half against LSU. You saw the game plan was like, all right, let's just kind of spy this kid, keep him in the pocket. We'll see what he can do. And like it wasn't there. You just like to see that.
Make him beat us with your arm. And nope.
Yeah.
So again, maybe he will this year. Casey Concepcion, really high on him. I like Mario Craver. I like Terry Bussey a lot.
You have all the weapons around you. You're right.
Like you are not. The cupboard is not bare.
Outside line, running backs. Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
Tight end's the only spot, but he has enough to go win. You're right.
And they still have good tight ends. It's just like they have unproven tight ends. Like that's. Like literally, the cupboard is far from bare out in Aggieland right now. And it's just all going to be based off of can he make it work. But we made this show work tonight. We went over an hour. We have things to do. So for Dave Shoemate, I'm Cole Thompson. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you hit the ring notification. And make sure you tell everybody to subscribe to the channel because we're on the route to becoming the #1 SEC entity in the world of college athletics, specifically college football. Make sure that you download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, link in the description. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson, at Dave Shoemate SEC. And check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. From all of us here at SEC Unfiltered, Chris, Dave, Harrison, myself, everyone behind the scenes, have a happy and safe 4th of July weekend. We will see you on Monday with a very big surprise, so you're not going to want to miss that show. And remember, You only live life once. So by golly, live it to the fullest. Bye.